Welcome to the Recovering Perfectionist Podcast, where I empower you to develop sustainable habits, challenge society, and take messy action. I'm Christine, life balance coach and world champion ballroom dancer, and I believe that everyone has the power to create their very own life by design. The Recovering Perfectionist Podcast was created with a mission to encourage a life of abundance by finding peace and acceptance in our own imperfections and developing healthy self-love through sustainable habits and manifestation. It's time to align with the universe for the full human experience and redefine what it really means to be successful.
It's too good, the secret is out and wow.
Welcome back to the Recovering Perfectionist Podcast. This is the start of season 5. If I'm being completely honest, I did not know when I was going to start this new season because my life has been, honestly, it's been wonderful and I've just been enjoying it. And that doesn't mean I don't enjoy doing recording podcasts, but I've just kind of been allowing myself to be present in the moment and just take in everything that I've worked so hard for. And so I'm going to update you on that in this episode for sure, and everything I've been up to since the end of season 4, which was in April of this year. So it's been like 4 months and a lot has happened, but I'm also going to kind of share with you where my growth is at and kind of the lessons I've learned there and, where I am after coming back from this big trip I took and all these different things. And, hopefully that resonates with you and allows you to kind of be introspective with your own personal growth as well. So let's dive in, and welcome to season 5 of the Recovering Perfectionist Podcast. So, where do we begin? Well, when we ended season 4, I was wrapping up living in Orange County, California, and my husband and I were putting all of our stuff into storage and going to Europe for 2 months. And we did that. It took 2 to 3 years to make that trip happen, but we finally did it. COVID, all the things, as everybody's saying, and then, our honeymoon, which we never really did, directly after our wedding in 2021. What am I saying? And so a year later, we were able to go and celebrate our 1-year anniversary in France. And we went to the place where my husband proposed to me, which was really cool. So we got to go back there and celebrate our 1-year anniversary. And we had an amazing time. We spent time traveling, visiting my family in the north of France. We visited family I really had never met since I was a baby in the south of France. We organized a trip it's like a week-long trip where we stay in a castle and we bring friends or just anyone who wants to come with us from the United States. And we do a whole France trip for a week and we show them France and we do all these different cities and everything. We did one of those, which was great because it was really cool to do one after COVID and see how, things had changed. And we were a little nervous there might be some restrictions, but it was actually easier because there were less people, which was great. My husband and I have been really intentional about dancing together a lot more since that's how we met and that's what we love to do. And because of work and building businesses, we've just been not able to practice as much and do more dancing. And so we were able to do a West Coast swing event in Paris and meet some new friends. And it was amazing. We performed and it was so fabulous. So we did that. We got to see my cousin, who lives in Paris, and some friends from the United States who were visiting. We all got to get together and do that. And then in May, we did our honeymoon European tour is kind of what we're calling it, where we went for 20 days. We visited 6 countries. We drove like 4,000 miles in my grandfather's little Peugeot car. And we had perfect weather everywhere we went. We basically went down from Rouen, where I was born, to Nantes, to Bordeaux, passing Andorra, which is its own like principal country, into Barcelona, which was a bucket list place for me. So that was really cool. I got to check off a huge bucket list. Like number one bucket list place for me has been Barcelona for a long time. So now I get to pick a new bucket list place, which was great. Then up to the south of France to visit my aunt and some friends, and then into Aix-en-Provence, into Nice, Cannes, Monaco, which was amazing, and then into Pisa and Florence, Italy, up to Milan. Florence is great. Also, we met incredible people there, stayed in some great hotels, went up to Milan, and then up to Switzerland, which was absolutely mind-blowing. Like, highly recommend Switzerland. If it's not on your bucket list, please put it on there. It is the most incredibly beautiful, one of the most beautiful places you'll ever see on the planet. It's just stunning. And then into France, back to a little place called Auxerre, and then into Paris. So we just did a whole like loop all around, in and out of countries for 20 days. And we were very spontaneous and didn't book our hotels in advance on purpose so that we could kind of find, we could adjust the plan accordingly if we wanted to spend an extra day somewhere. We weren't like obligated because we had a reservation. It was amazing. It was absolutely life-changing and transformative and beautiful and abundant and joyful and loving and all the things a honeymoon should be. So more on that a little bit later when we get into kind of the things that I learned once I got back. But just incredible. Got to eat some amazing food, which is what I was looking the most forward to, and just feeling incredible. I have been waiting for this trip for a very, very long time. I've been wanting to do a 2-month Europe trip for many, many years, even before I met my husband. And then I finally met the man of my dreams, and I was like, great, let's go to Europe. I have family there. Obviously, I go back periodically, but we only go for like 2 weeks at a time, 2-3 weeks, and then we're back in the United States because we have work stuff. And I just don't ever feel like I get to like settle and actually live there. And it was incredible. The minute I landed, like, it was like I had no jet lag. I was just so excited. Everything felt great. I barely got any headaches. It was just incredible. So again, more on that later. But until then, so then when we came back in June, and we had immediately got back into work stuff. That's kind of who we are. But, slowly we had some clients we were working with in Las Vegas and kind of getting back into that. I had a dance competition to dance with one of my students, which was fun at the end of June. And then July, we decided to rent an Airbnb and stay in San Diego for a month to see if we like living in San Diego. We've kind of been trying to figure out where in the United States we feel good and where we want to live. And it's been, San Diego has been on the list for a long time to kind of cultivate the community and the dance friends that we have there. And we were able to actually, see if that was a possibility. And we loved it. We stayed like in downtown, which I don't know if I would do that once we actually moved there, but I enjoyed it for the time being. We brought our bikes. We biked around Balboa Park and Little Italy and all the places down to the pier. And it was incredible. Connected with some new friends and some old ones. And yeah, just kept working on our businesses, did a couple of events in that time, one in Palm Springs, kept the workflow going, pumped out some content, all the things. And then I'm recording this now in August. So we are about 2 events into our very, very busy season for my husband's business. So he has a digital media business, some of you might know, and we are on the road. We did an event in San Diego, then we just did an event in Las Vegas. We've got an event in Hawaii at the end of September. and then LA and Phoenix and Santa Barbara, all the things. So until November, it's going to be a little bit chaotic, and we're going to be kind of like bouncing around from hotels to, little Airbnbs and stuff. But once we get to November, the plan is to go back to San Diego more permanently. So we're excited about that. And we are just trying to be as present in the moment as possible, because there's just a lot going on in the world, in our lives, and we want to take it all in and make sure that we're not going too fast and going from event to event, and actually fully digesting and absorbing all of the wonderful things that our life and our jobs have to offer. But I think mostly what I want to share with you, now that I've kind of caught you up on all the things and where we've been and what we've been doing, is kind of what I've learned from all of that. If those of you who have listened to the podcast in past seasons, I have been on a intense growth journey and healing journey, mostly healing, because I've been trying to really figure out how to discover who I am really. Not being someone's daughter, not someone's sister, not someone's wife, but who is Christine? And I think we're all kind of on that journey in our own way. But it's been really, really therapeutic and really healing. It's been really hard. Don't let anyone tell you it's easy. It's not. But it is always worth it. And in the last 2 years, I've made significant strides in who I am and what I desire and what I need, mostly to be mentally clear and comfortable and all of that. I think a lot of us, we put ourselves last. We're trying to be the good person, trying to accommodate for others, trying to fulfill our obligations and responsibilities, both in work and personal life. And we don't often think about what we need to feel balanced, to feel abundant, to feel at peace. I think that is the most important thing, because you are the person you're going to spend the rest of your life with. And so you need to make sure that you're setting healthy boundaries, that you're feeling good and balanced. And I know that's really hard with all the obligations. It's been really hard for me as well with all the traveling that we do, changing time zones all the time, changing the people that we're around, making sure that my husband and I have time for each other, making sure that we're getting enough food and nutrition and enough water, and keeping ourselves healthy, of course, in this crazy time of COVID and, all these different things going on. So I think it's really important, more so now than ever, to focus on what it is that you need in order to be functioning at the highest level that you can, and what's going to help you be your best self, honestly, both mentally, physically, emotionally, all the things. So the biggest things for me, especially before I left for France, was my food. I was having the hardest time with food because those of you who know me, I am very vocal about the fact that the food in the United States is not as good nutritionally as it should be, as it is in Europe and other places around the world. And that was a huge problem for me. And so I wouldn't necessarily always take time to have lunch or take breaks, and I would push it until I would possibly get a headache. And then I would finally be like, okay, I should stop and eat lunch. And that would happen maybe 2-3 times a week. A lot of it was just because I didn't crave food here anymore. I just was like, I don't know what to make. I don't want to cook. I'm not inspired by anything. Nothing tastes good. It was just really getting to a point where it was just too much. So going to France and being so excited to taste all these new foods in all these different countries, and of course go back to the foods in my country that I love so much. First of all, I feel like being in Europe for 2 months did a couple of things. First of all, I feel like it really got the fear of COVID out of my head, because as much as, COVID's going to be with us forever, it's going to become a flu thing every year and all this stuff, everyone has to deal with it their own way. And for me, a lot of my community activities like social dancing involve being around other people and touching and doing all that stuff. And so that was really hard to go back into social aspects and community and missing my friends and missing, that social connection. It was really bad on my mental health and giving me a lot of anxiety. Then going to the grocery store, and then we have variants and things are spiking and then they're going back down. It's very inconsistent, and it's very hard on your mental health. And being in Europe, once we got there, the mask mandate was just ending. Everyone's kind of back to normal, and there really was no COVID fear anymore. So for 2 months, I think we wore a mask maybe twice, once on a metro and once in a museum, just for our own personal anxiety levels, because we were just like, oh, there's a lot of people here. But other than that, we didn't wear one the entire time. We were outside a lot. We were with very small groups of people and some, maybe 1 or 2 family members at a time. So it really kind of kicked it out of my system once I got back to the United States. Yes, once we have spikes and all these different things, I start to maybe I'll pop a mask on here and there, but also going back to these big events that we're doing, the fear of it was gone. I really learned how to kick a fear out of my head by allowing myself to really be in a space of safety for 2 months. So that was amazing. And then the food thing was also the second thing that really helped me, was that I was eating amazing food. I had unlimited access to food. I was around a lot of family. We were eating a lot. We were always, thinking about, in Europe, we make a joke all the time. It's like when you're eating, you're thinking about, everyone asks the question, what's for dinner while you're eating lunch? So it's like you're always thinking about food. And for me, that's amazing. My husband, not so much. He feels like he gained a lot of weight and came back and felt like he needed to tone up. But for me, mentally, physically, I felt so strong. I felt nourished with good quality food. And I felt like I probably had maybe 1 or 2 headaches the entire trip, was because of lack of sleep on one day. And then the other one was going through all these tunnels when we were driving between France and Italy. And it was just a lot of laser lights and stuff in the tunnels. And it was just really, even my husband had a really bad headache that day. So really it was just that. But other than that, food wise, I wasn't getting headaches from food anymore. So coming back to the United States, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm in this habit now. It's really good. I need to keep this rolling. So also another really awesome benefit was that we were really spontaneous with the way that we planned our Europe trip. So we booked hotels the day of, and we were really go with the flow. So ideally, I wanted to keep that energy going, because as a recovering perfectionist, as you all know, it's all about the plan. It's all about the execution. And as much as we had certain things in the books when we were planning this 2-month Europe trip, there were a lot of things that we just wanted to see where the universe and the environment and the people we met would take us, so that, that's how we feel the best memories are made. And we have the luxury of time and resources to be able to, not have everything planned down to the hour and to the day, and that we could kind of go with the flow. And if we wanted to spend an extra day in a city that we were really enjoying, or we met some friends in Italy, we were able to, adjust the schedule a little bit and not feel like it was going to throw everything off. And so coming back into the United States, when we were going back to work, where everything is pretty calculated and pretty executed based on working with clients and, project deadlines and all these different things, I was like, okay, let's keep that energy going while we still maintain these deadlines and client, requests, so that we don't get back into this stuck place of our whole life is planned out for us and everything from the hour is to a T done a certain way. And then you realize you don't have time to do all this morning routine, breath work, meditation, go on bike rides, be intentional about date nights, all those things. We wanted to keep this work-life balance happening, because we were also doing some online work stuff from Europe. But we were probably working maybe 10-15% of the trip. And then most of it was vacation and honeymoon. But coming back and doing the flip side of the coin here, we also didn't want it to go back to 100% work. So we were very, very intentional about how we could keep this wonderful, euphoric, abundant energy that we had built up in this last 2 months going, even though we were going to start adding a lot of work into it. yeah, and that's we have seen major changes in that, and that was really amazing to be a part of and to intentionally execute. And then I think the last thing for me is that on top of setting boundaries, which I've been doing, a lot better for the last couple of years, setting boundaries with my family, with my friends, with clients, coworkers, all the things, and saying no more so that we say yes to more of our personal projects, yes to us as a couple, and really taking on the work and client things that we're going to move the needle or bring a lot of financial gain or move the company forward, in a big way. Or just honestly, just fulfilled. Like if you're fulfilled with the project, then yeah, of course we say yes. But a lot of the stuff that we were doing in the past, when we first started years and years ago, was saying yes just to plant a bunch of seeds. And there was a lot of things that we felt like weren't moving the needle and we were spending so many hours doing. So we've been setting a lot of those really healthy boundaries with our work, but also with our family members. And in turn, the reward of that is we've just been less agitated by other people because we have given ourselves permission to say no. And if for those of you who have listened to my podcast updates from past seasons, one of them I specifically talked about how I took the entire month of September last year to just for myself. I did not talk to my parents or my brother for an entire month. And I obviously warned them and gave them the whole, but you guys can go back and listen to that episode and how that experiment worked out. And what that did is it gave me the right to say no sometimes. It gave me my power back. It gave me permission to choose me. It did not make me feel obligated or required because I was, their daughter or their sister or whatever. And I felt like I always had to hold all the pieces together and the perfectionism in me came out all the time. It allowed me to be like, listen, if in 1 month they, something happens, obviously if there was an emergency, they could call me, but they knew that like I was focusing on me and my husband and we were really trying to, go the next step in our businesses and really just, I needed to clear my plate of a lot of things that I felt were taking over my energy when I would have conversations. And at the end of it, it felt like it was amazing that month. And then I was very overwhelmed. My birthday is in October, so everyone came flooding back in to wish me happy birthday. But that Christmas, where we have a lot of family together, and that usually ends up being a pretty stressful time for a lot of people, was one of the best Christmases I've ever had because I felt less agitated by all the little things. I didn't feel obligated to be the person that solved everyone's problems, to organize all the plans, make all the dinners, do all the things. And that's not to say that other people weren't helping out before, but it's just to say that I definitely put a lot of pressure on myself and put myself in a position that really felt like I was obligated to do all these things because if I didn't do it, it wouldn't get done. And that's just a narrative that was no longer serving me because if I didn't do it, it would get done. It just wouldn't get done on my timeline. And why is my timeline the better timeline than anyone else's? Like it is what it is. So in the last year, now that we're coming up on a year of that time actually, because we're basically going into September, having this Europe trip as well on top of that has just been so extremely therapeutic and really showing me what I feel obligated to do and how I can maintain healthy boundaries and still have great relationships. Because I think that's the biggest thing is people say, well, if I set up these boundaries, then, I'm no longer going to be the favorite child, or I'm no longer going to be, the person everyone can count on, or I'm going to let everyone down. And, there's all these like shaming and judgments. And that's just not the case. If people are taking advantage of your time and your energy and are not caring about your mental health in the process, then they're really just taking advantage of you. And if you start to set boundaries on that and they feel like they were benefiting from not having those boundaries, then it really weeds out quickly the people who love you for you or love you for what you can do for them. And that isn't just family, it's also friends, coworkers, clients, anything. That if you say you're going to set healthy boundaries and then somebody, challenges you with that, that they were benefiting from you not having those boundaries and they were getting a lot of free work or a lot of, free therapy from you or whatever it is that you were doing for them. And the people who really truly love you and care about your mental health and want you to be happy, obviously might still ask you for things, but they're going to respect those boundaries because they understand that they're in place for a reason. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking about that. If that's something that resonates with you and something you're having trouble doing, I think setting healthy boundaries, especially with family, is one of the hardest things for people to do. And it was extremely hard for me because I was extremely intertwined with so many of my family members and, definitely moved around with their wind and their energy. And I had to figure out what my wind and my energy was so that I could protect it and then give it to them when I felt that it was going to benefit everyone involved and it wasn't just going to drain me and benefit them. So keeping that in mind. And then just to wrap this all up, I am very, very excited about season 5. I hope you guys are too. We already have a couple of episodes in the pipeline with some incredible guests, speakers, and I cannot wait for you to hear their episodes. We're diving deeper this season. What does that mean? We are just exposing more truths. We're diving deeper into more in-depth conversations about specific things. And we are pulling back the curtain and unmasking a lot of things that I think have been under the shadows for a long time, that people are finally realizing it's time to talk about this. And I am so excited that I've been having some of these conversations off the record, and I cannot wait to be bringing some of those conversations on this podcast. And I think it's going to really help a lot of people. And then in the middle of that, as I've told you, I've wanted to do more and more of my own individual episodes. And I've been thrilled that there have been so many people that want to be a guest on the podcast. And I'm extremely grateful and fulfilled in that. But I also know that when I'm working within my academy, Freedom Mindset Academy, and I'm working with some of my clients and my students, I am having, we're doing these workshop Zoom calls, and we're having these light bulb moments, and they are moments that are so relevant to so many people in the world, and they're not really being heard. So what I would like to do is to start recording some of these moments off, basically we'll have a conversation. I'll have a conversation with a client or a friend or a family member or whatever's happening. And then basically I will come and record, a 5 to 10 minute summary of how this can benefit, your life, or how this teaching moment or whatever, this is the lesson I learned from this moment, or even stuff that has happened with me, my own insecurities and vulnerabilities and how I have pushed through and, seen the growth, and this is what helped me, and all those little things. So if you have any requests, if you have anything that's any questions, any things that you're, having some issues with and you would like some guidance on that, definitely comment, go on Instagram, Recovering Perfectionist Podcast, and comment, DM, and let me know what you want to talk about. Because I already have a lot of things in the pipeline, and I would love to do these little micro episodes that will be just really great things that we can go back and listen to or send to a friend, or oh, hey, you are having trouble setting boundaries. Here's a quick 5-minute video, podcast of this great tip of how to set better boundaries. So that is really what I'm very excited about introducing this season. And we'll see in the following seasons how that ends up evolving. I'm excited to see how it evolves. But I definitely want to start introducing some of those little, mini episodes that can definitely be easily shareable and quick things you could go back to as a reminder, like in between a work day or going into a meeting or going into a conversation with a family member or friend and being like, oh my gosh, this is a quick tip I need to remind myself that can help me, really move the needle and really change a habit or whatever it is you're trying to do. So I hope you enjoyed this little update. I'm so happy to be back. I'm coming in with a brand new energy this season. I'm so thrilled for these guests you're about to hear. I'm over the moon about these mini episodes that are going to be really great resources for so many people. And I can't wait to connect with you guys even more. This community is growing and growing, and I am so excited about that. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and I will see you next week on the Recovering Perfectionist Podcast, Season 5, baby.
Thank you so much for listening to the Recovering Perfectionist Podcast. I'm Christine, and if this episode resonated with you or spoke to you in any way, please feel free to share. I absolutely love hearing from you guys and your thoughts about the topics based on your experiences. And also, if there's anything you want me to talk about, just screenshot this episode and share it on social media with your comments. Your feedback really helps me to curate episodes that best serve you. If you have time, I would greatly appreciate if you could leave a review wherever you're listening to this episode, whether on Apple or Spotify or any other platform. I'm wishing you a blessed week ahead, and remember, perfection doesn't exist. Take messy action. Healthy habits keep us balanced, and you are enough.